The NBA is all about excitement, drama, and moments one will never forget. It's a league designed to deliver thrills at every turn. But sometimes, the rules, yes, the rules, make us stop and ask, why does this exist? Some of them feel outdated, overly restrictive, or downright ridiculous, throwing a wrench into the flow that makes basketball so electrifying. They tend to take away from the drama rather than add to it. So, let's just jump right into the 10 surprising NBA rules that have left fans, players, and analysts scratching their heads. So sit tight, for some of them will shock you. Number 10. Technical foul for hanging on the rim. You have seen it. An athlete throws down the hardest dunk in history, making the arena quiver. The crowd yells, energy sizzles and buzzes. But wait. Here comes the ref with the whistle and a technical foul. For what? Hanging on the rim for a nanosecond is too long. Correct. A player gets penalized for showing off his strength and style after delivering a massive dunk. This rule often is a bit too extreme to avoid being overtaken or risking being hurt, since, to an average spectator, the punishment appears quite unfair to the player, who actually isn't taunting anybody and doing any form of threatening action at that time. It can also just be something a player makes sure they won't fall down from the air after some high-flying dunk. Instead of adding to the excitement, this rule punishes players for celebrating a highlight reel moment, often stripping the crowd of that infectious energy. The NBA is a show, and dunks are one of its greatest attractions. Why penalize a player for adding flair to an already spectacular moment? A dunk is a moment of athleticism, passion, and entertainment. Let them enjoy it. Number 9. No hand-checking rule. With no hand-checking, as the rule opened up the game, it can be easier for the offensive player to get to the basket without a defender constantly pressuring them. Perhaps in theory it is supposed to make scoring more exciting and full of action. But here is the catch. The rule has somehow nullified the defensive side of things, because it's impossible to guard one of these skilled players one-on-one now, as it seems against the law. The other day, checking was a fairly fair defensive tool. A player could break up an opponent's rhythm by using his hands, without it being a foul. Now, defenders are sometimes required to be too mindful, and for that reason, may end up very lazy and very passive. Then the game can be really uneven, favoring the offense very much, leaving the defenders at times appearing just to be witnesses rather than performers. The goal was to make the game more exciting by giving the offense more freedom, but what has been created is a shift that undervalues tough defense. A little bit of hand-checking, when done right, could create better matchups and a more competitive, well-rounded game. Number 8. Delay of game for touching the ball. Suppose the game is on and the crowd all cheers as their favorite team scores that beautiful three-pointer. That excitement goes down to the ground due to the violation of a delay of the game, when one player dared to touch the ball as soon as it passed through the ring. Yes, in the NBA, if a player grabs the basketball right after shooting a basket and not immediately handing over the ball to a referee or permitting the opposing team to inbound, it is indeed a penalty. This rule is supposed to speed up the game, but it often feels unnecessary. Grabbing the ball for transition or to keep the energy high in the game is often more about momentum and rhythm than delaying the game. In the heat of the moment, grabbing the ball isn't an act of stalling. It's just an instinct to keep the pace going. This rule just interrupts the flow and kills any buzz off a big play, instead of creating a more exciting atmosphere. A simple and quick grab of the ball must not be penalized when it comes to keeping games moving. Number 7. Defensive 3-second violation. This rule was designed to eliminate the traditional zone defense teams because these teams prevented the offense from getting open space. The idea is to prevent a defender from standing in the paint for more than 3 seconds guarding an opponent. This was designed to promote more man-to-man battles and to allow for faster breaking games, yet it ended up limiting the strategic and creative possibilities on defense. The most frustrating thing about the rule is that it prevents teams from using effective defense tactics, such as packing the paint or protecting the rim. For example, a team may want to create a wall around the basket to prevent the fast break, or prevent a player from scoring freely. But 3-second rules penalize defenders who stay for too long inside the paint while not guarding somebody. This will serve to cause many forced rotations and much less effective team defense. It has its purpose for the rule, but it always leans toward the offense a little too much. Why can't coaches have more options with varied defensive strategies without having to constantly watch the clock? A little flexibility with defensive formations could mean ever more dynamic, hard-hitting matches, and thus, a more exciting game. Number 6. Kicking the ball rule. Well, an intentional kick by a player using his foot is regarded as a turnover where possession of the ball goes to the opposite team. This rule does not facilitate kicking of the ball that manipulates it for a player, but sometimes seems too harsh for a situation where kicking the ball has been overtly done accidentally or with no harm caused. Players often lose the ball while dribbling or when they are trying to pass. Sometimes, it even grazes their feet unconsciously. A penalty is issued without actually showing the player to have been a poor sport or guilty of unsportsmanlike conduct. The ball cannot be kicked in the sense that a soccer ball would, so it is nonsensical to penalize the players for an unintentional error. This rule disrupts the flow of the game and can easily be modified to allow minor accidental kicks without giving possession to the other team. Instead of stopping play for something that is normally just an innocent slip, the game could continue without unnecessary stoppages, thus making the whole experience smoother and more exciting for both fans and players. Number 5. Over-the-back foul. This rule does not allow a player to jump over the back of an opponent to grab a rebound. However, this rule often has the player barely touching the opponent's back as they are going for the ball. Sometimes this rule seems to penalize players for hustling and being aggressive on the boards. In truth, rebounding often requires positioning oneself in the correct space and place at the proper time and could result in some physicality. The over-the-back rule at times penalizes good faith attempts to catch the ball even where no real advantage is achieved. This is almost like a rule that disproportionately rewards the smaller player, or one not as active in the paint. This over-the-back rule very often brings stoppages to what are sometimes clean plays, instead of making for a hard-nosed, competitive rebounding environment. Rebounding is one of the most basic elements of basketball, and a little physicality should be allowed in those battles. Allowing more freedom here would lead to more contested, competitive plays without penalizing effort or aggression needlessly. Number 4. One challenge limit. Another ridiculous rule is that each coach is limited to one challenge per game. If they get it wrong, they cannot issue any more throughout the game. Challenges are expected to ensure a fair call regarding the officiation of the play. However, the rule might sometimes feel cumbersome, especially at crucial moments of the game. A limited number of challenges should seem fair. After all, coaches should conserve them for meaningful use, correct? But in practice, crucial calls sometimes happen in the middle of the game, and coaches don't have the opportunity to challenge multiple questionable decisions. A single challenge can be a huge gamble, especially in a fast-paced game where calls can shift the momentum dramatically. If a coach burns their challenge early in the game on a minor issue, they could be left helpless when a much more important call happens later. The challenge system itself should probably be expanded, or a coach given a second challenge under specific conditions. This way, the game will be decided much more fairly between the players on the court, rather than a coach's talent to predict which calls will shift the outcome. Number 3. Flopping penalty. Flopping refers to flailing while trying to receive a call simply because of outrageous contact, such a common aspect in the NBA. However, although it's been made unlawful for them to do that, at times the players can flop intentionally and then whine to escape scot-free, since penalties that accrue with the offense are not uniform or have any effect when executed so half-hearted that somehow there is still some form of outcome from that infringement. The flopping penalty has two major problems. Sometimes the referee cannot tell whether the player is really and genuinely committing an actual foul or merely doing a dramatic flop. Moreover, if flops are caught, a simple fine or technical foul could hardly seem grave enough to become a deterrent for players. And with flopping now becoming that pervasive in the game, it hardly seems worth the technical foul or monetary fine to make them desist from the flopping tactic. It can be removed by a more serious approach, perhaps through a higher penalty or through reviewing flopping. Honestly, basketball is all about skill, athleticism, and pure competition, not who can lie to the referee about being hit if they were not. Number 2. Basket interference. Touching the ball is prohibited even if he rebounded it to when it hangs there in the air, concerning being above the cylinder of the basketball hoop. An offensive basket interference is used in this scenario so that to have less occurrence in going for obstruction or some fouls within this activity. And although it intends for no going over, its sense of opportunity that would generate even more exciting matches seems somewhat lacking. Think about it. You've got a player leaping high into the air, trying to finish a play, and if the ball is just a bit too close to the hoop but still above the rim, they can't give it a little nudge to get it in. This takes away from the excitement of spectacular plays, where players are going for instinctive finishes on a shot, particularly in tight situations. A smart offensive rebounder or a player with quick reflexes should be able to tap it in, but this rule denies them that chance. If this rule is removed or revised, it would allow for more acrobatic, high-flying finishes. The game would be even more exciting to watch. Isn't basketball about making those jaw-dropping, edge-of-your-seat moments? Number 1. No celebration rule players in the NBA tend to be punished when they do something too outrageous about celebrating hitting the game-winning shot, especially if it takes them an eternity to return to their defensive position or just delay the game. While that is critical in keeping the flow of the game, it often seems that they are penalized too much for celebrating victory hard-won. They have done something incredible. This is why basketball is such an exciting game, celebrating such a big moment. The rule has discouraged players from showing emotion and enjoying their victory, which goes against the spirit of sportsmanship and entertainment. Players have every right to display their exuberance and joy after scoring a clutch shot, especially at the most stressful moments. And that is exactly why we tune in to watch the NBA, to witness those sensational, last-minute shots that blow our minds. The celebration completes that magic. The league should let the players enjoy the big moments reasonably and not hold them against them while allowing the game to flow. First of all, a little passion and excitement should be encouraged. It's what makes the NBA the spectacle that it is. And that's it. Basketball is all about excitement. And sometimes these rules get in the way of the fun. If you have a rule you'd add to this list, drop it in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more takes on the game we all love.